because you are going to set yourself way ahead of the rest just by doing these things. If it's different just 10 years ago, imagine how different our needs and what we can accomplish today are compared to 80 years ago when the 40-hour work week was first implemented. We have been conditioned in business culture to not really speak up or not really cause dissent in any way because we don't want to lose our positions or our roles. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Rodriguez. This is No Brands Land, hosted on my Ashley Speaks channel, and we're talking about all things humanizing business with this specific playlist. Today is a fun favorite for me. I want to talk about how we can enhance business culture, how I'm seeing this being done in the business world, coming from an industry of marketing, and also how I would recommend businesses can start to adopt and make these changes. If you've seen other videos that I've posted, you know that I already advocate for reduced working hours, sabbatical policies, things of that nature that are really going to invest in and improve the performances of their team and employee, which in turn should lower turnover and be more cost effective for companies. Let's dive in. Now, in the world of IO psychology, when we're talking about business psychology, workplace well-being, all of those things that have to do with us showing up to work and doing our job, there is a big emphasis on motivational theory, which essentially is studying, observing, understanding what motivates individuals to behave or act a certain way. So this is really important because historically, over the last 80 years or so, we've been taught that you just leave it at the door. Check it at the door. If you're going through something, if you're struggling as a human being, leave it at the door because business has to get done. In some aspect, yes, that's true. We can't just show up and fuck off, essentially, right? So we do have to do our jobs. However, what's changing is society as a whole. We have a massive emphasis on using software and technology to kind of streamline our work processes. We have AI that we're using and working with. We have hybrid and remote work, which I've been doing for quite some time already. So I was really excited to see that shift in the business world. And then I realized, wow, like there's a lot of competition out here now. And it is impossible to get seen in the online space unless you're really doing something unique to set yourself apart. So there are a lot of changes that I've seen in my career. I've seen over the course of the last decade or so, just looking at where I started in photography with my first brand in photography to where we are now. I do have another media company, which is amazing. I'm really pushing and launching that. So that's been fun. But it's different. It's just different than it was 10 years ago. And everybody is feeling it. And if it's different just 10 years ago, imagine how different our needs and what we can accomplish today are compared to 80 years ago when the 40-hour work week was first implemented. Now, because business is not going anywhere, I want to focus instead on how we can improve the business workplace, what that might look like, who does that involve, and how can we really leverage that to create a better working space. I call this like the people's department or incentives department. I want to go through just a few things to spark your creativity in your own business. If you are starting a business, by the way, go ahead and start implementing these as soon as you can, financially and responsibly within your business, because you are going to set yourself way ahead of the rest just by doing these things. Number one is identifying whether or not it's possible to change your workflow as far as how many hours are your employees spending working a day? How many hours are you spending working a day? If you build your business off of a 40-hour work week, you will never reach the same progress at a reduced hour work week that you did at that 40-hour work week. I mean, just plain and simple, if you're really, really crunching it for full 40 hours, you are doing less work on a 32-hour work week, but we can do things like working more efficiently, leveraging our tools, maybe doing some kind of shift style work, but there are ways that you can shift and mold your business model to be successful if you do it from the very beginning with your values in place. So if that's a 32-hour work week, build a business model that is profitable and successful with 32 hours. It is very possible. I only know that because I'm doing it with my business. And I did that on purpose because I needed to be able to showcase that it is possible. Every business is going to look entirely different depending on the industry, the scope of work that they're doing, the skill sets needed to do that work. But what I'm trying to encourage here, what I'm hoping to spark in everybody is an idea or an opening to a conversation where we can start to discuss why changing our business models might be necessary and also doable. The next component I really want to talk about, this is a fan favorite of mine. I don't know why that's a fan favorite, but it's just a favorite of mine. That is incentives for your team and your employees. This is incredibly crucial to the process of just making sure that your team feels cared for, thought of, heard, seen. Remember, at the end of the day, in our workplace, we are dealing with humans. We are human. And so there are very real emotions and needs that need to be met, very similar to everyday relationships outside of work. So even though the dynamic is slightly different and the role and the obligations with work are slightly different, the undertone or the underlying needs that a person feels they need to be happy or fulfilled or seen or acknowledged are going to be very similar. Now, this is important because when you're designing what kind of incentives or bonuses you're going to give your team, it's really important to take their perspective into consideration. You can do this through surveys, through polls, through an onboarding experience, maybe an annual update to their own profile if you do like a digital inquiry into what they want to see. And now what this would look like is, instead of doing maybe a cash bonus for everyone across the board, you can do a cash or monetary value for reaching a certain performance metric. Or you can opt for similar value in the form of a trip or a travel incentive. This might be a food incentive. Maybe it's a gift card to a restaurant, or maybe it's some kind of other gift. You see this a lot with the giveaways where they're like, a $500 gift card to Target, or cash, same value in cash. The reason this is important, and I can speak for myself here, and I can also speak for what I'm seeing on the psychology side. For myself, if I'm given a cash bonus, I'm very likely to not use that on myself. I'm more likely to use that on my family, my kids, maybe putting it back into the business. I don't know. I am very likely to not use it on myself. However, because of that tendency that I have to kind of redirect and help and send resources other directions, for me, I know that I would benefit best if I have some kind of incentive or a bonus that's not cash related. I already get paid for what I do. I already make money. But in order for me to really fully experience maybe taking care of myself or exploring a new activity that I just didn't think about, some kind of gift related to maybe travel or food or a gift card of some sorts is going to encourage me to step outside of my normal routine. Now, this is a very normal human behavior. We get into routines, and sometimes it can be difficult to even realize that we haven't stepped outside of that unless we're given an opportunity to do so. These are just very small, quick examples how incentives can be used to really motivate your team, and why some people might need different motivations than others. So for me, a cash bonus is nice, but it doesn't really get me pumped to excel, right? Because I'm already making money. I'm already making enough, more than enough, than for what I'm comfortable with. But an incentive like a gift or a travel perk or some kind of maybe gift card to a restaurant, that's going to really pique my interest, because now it's giving me an opportunity to experience something new that I probably would not do for myself. And this is only scratching the surface, because there are so many psychological theories regarding motivation. There are some theories proposing that others are motivated by what their input is going to do for output. So it's called expectancy theory. It's basically saying that for those who are doing a job or doing a role, they are very motivated by what they would expect to happen from the work that they're putting in. There's also a theory called goal setting theory, which basically says that some individuals are more motivated by creating and accomplishing goals, whether those are small or large. So you'll know that you are this kind of person if you get a boost of energy when you can scratch something off of your to-do list. Then you have something called self-determination theory, which is what a lot of our entrepreneurs fall under. And this is basically the motivation that comes from being autonomous, from being independent, from doing your own thing and creating. It's the self-determination that gives you the motivation to make that successful. Again, we won't get too deep into all of the theories or the psychology today, but I just wanted to make note that there are different ways that individuals are motivated. And it's also important to note that their perception of what motivates them can also alter or shift a little bit what they're actually motivated by. So my perception, if I think that I am really driven by reaching goals, but really I'm focusing more on the autonomy that I have, I might start to feel hindered by all of the goals that I'm setting if I'm not truly motivated by goal setting, right? Maybe I'm motivated just by being autonomous and creative, but I need some flexibility in my schedule. You'll start to know when you're unhappy or dissatisfied, when you start to dread showing up, you're overly exhausted, you're procrastinating. I'll tell you first thing, I do not procrastinate on a single thing that I truly enjoy and that really pumps me up and inspires me. I will do that task so fast. There's no procrastination, there's no delay, there's no exhaustion. So I'm here to tell you that if you're feeling some of those things, it's probably that there are some misalignments in your job or in your role that are causing you to feel unmotivated. And last but not least, is your overall business culture. So we can talk about business models all day long, having certain work schedules and shifts and flexibilities. We can talk about motivations and incentives, but if your business culture is not healthy or one that promotes creativity, trust, relationship building, then you're going to likely be considered for being the lesser of value for professionals who are looking for opportunities, which means I said that really long-windedly to just say if there's a better opportunity that comes along, your team is going to be more likely to leave because they have nothing emotionally anchoring them in the culture of the business, which would be relationships, opportunities, all kinds of things. So the last component that you would want to focus on for motivating your team to stick around and to really go through the trenches with you or to build or to improve upon the company with their skill sets and their time and their effort, you need to focus on business culture. And business culture is exactly what it sounds like. It's the overall environment that your employees are perceiving they are working in. You know, what are they saying to each other? What are they saying in the break room? What are they saying when they're not around? How are they feeling? How are your managers and your leadership being perceived by the employees? How are colleagues perceiving one another? You can see when we really dive into the psychology of business, why this gets really intricate and tricky, and why it's so important to develop close professional relationships with your teams to better understand what they really need. We have been conditioned in business culture to not really speak up or not really cause dissent in any way because we don't want to lose our positions or our roles. But the minute companies start really listening and tuning in to what's being said, what's being felt in the business culture, and what they can do to improve that, they are going to be more likely to have a team that sticks around, which reduces turnover and ultimately saves money for these bigger companies. It's very important. It's a little bit tricky. It takes some time. This is why IO psychologists are hired to come in and do surveying and really try to get to the root of a problem so that they can give businesses solutions to improve their culture. But business culture is by far one of the most important things that needs to be enhanced and focused on and really nurtured so that the incentives begin to matter, the motivations begin to come out, and ultimately support the business model in the long run. Now, I know we could go so deep into this topic. This is meant to just be a very superficial video where we can start to open the conversation on this topic. And I will be doing some workshops on the different components of this topic very soon, where we actually go really deep into different personas, different employees and working environments, different business models. There's so many things that we can do to kind of pick this apart. But first and foremost, I wanted to scratch the surface on the 3 ways that we can really enhance our businesses. And that is focusing on the business models. What does the work shifts look like? What do the tasks look like? What is our day-to-day operations, focusing on incentives and motivations for your team, and also focusing on business culture and what you're cultivating within your business, your team, your environment. Now, if you like this topic, I encourage you to please stick around. If you give a quick follow or a subscribe or a like or a comment, it really helps these channels more than you know. It's a great way to help us stay competitive in the online space, to continue bringing this information to you. And I encourage you to communicate with me, send a reply, send a message, get involved, because the business culture and the movements in business culture are absolutely shifting. Everybody can feel it. It's an exciting time to be alive, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.